My name is Steve Relations for Adventist Teachers International. And I'm pleased to be able to introduce to you our speaker for the evening. Raymont Anderson is Spiritual Director of the Center for Spiritual Living of Greater Baltimore. And he has a story that will soon be turned into a mini-series on cable that will encompass many episodes. He was telling me some of his story this evening, and it is fascinating. It's, almost unbelievable, but I believe you. But I will say, if you go to the website for the Center for Spiritual Living, it has these words as a descriptor. It's a radically inclusive, welcoming, and affirming community. And as I said, he's the spiritual director for the center in Baltimore. And so it's with great pleasure that we welcome you to the podium. We're looking forward to your presentation.
If you're happy to be here and you know it, clap your hands. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for inviting me. This is going to be a very interesting dialogue, conversation, and sharing, simply because my current spiritual tradition is somewhat different, but it's all good because there's only God, right? Now, this gentleman, I'm a little upset with you for a couple of reasons. One, because you called me out about this. Two, because you almost brought me to tears. We share so many similarities in terms of, for you it was your dad, for me it was my mom. But there's this idea, and I'm sure we've all heard this phrase, hurt people, hurt people. Until such time as hurt people become healed people, and then healed people heal people. Because there's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, and we are all someone's child. So when we come together, and we as LGBTQ folks and allies, we know what it means to come together as a village, to come together as a collective for the purpose of, what is it? Your first question of the evening, should you accept? Why are you here? What is the purpose of this? Someone volunteer if you feel brave enough. Yes?
Candy. I want candy.
Candy. Now, the thing is, if we didn't have folks like Dr. Reginald and Steve and the board doing what they do, there would be no candy. So even in that, there is the opportunity to have. Why else are we here?
I'm sorry, but it's the best group in the world.
It's the best group in the world. Give me at least one reason why. What makes this the best group in the world?
It's the one place where I can truly be myself, and I know that they are truly being themselves.
See, that's what I'm talking about. The one place where I am seen and heard and recognized and appreciated. See, one of the things for the spiritual tradition that I'm in and the parent organization, we always say, there are many centers for spiritual living, and we say, diversity and inclusion, welcoming, and blah, 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 open and affirming, blah, 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 blah. But where is the celebration? Oh, we'll invite the gay folks in, we'll invite the black folks in, we'll invite the deaf people in. We don't have interpreters, but we'll invite them in. We want you to come in, yet, what does it mean to celebrate? To celebrate who you are. To be able to celebrate recognizing that we are made in the image and likeness of that which creates planets and makes roses bloom and puts a rainbow in the sky when it rains. That we are made in the image and likeness of. When do we get to celebrate it? Now, one of the things that Dr. Kumar said was this idea that all of us, this idea that all of us on the spectrum, now the first time you mentioned spectrum was this spectrum of gender fluidity and expression, but there's also a spectrum of how much trauma. Like, we could have done bingo on that. How much trauma do you have in your life? But I can sign that one. Matter of fact, I can sign all 7 of these. So many of us have something in our background something in our upbringing, something in relationships. And even, anybody in there ever heard the term microaggressions? And it's often referred to as death by 1,000 small cuts. In your own words, someone share with me, what is a microaggression, or what does it mean to experience or suffer from one? Anybody? Okay, everybody will be shy now. Okay, so let's go with, what is a macroaggression? An aggression that is outright, direct. The F word. Being called the F word is direct. Microaggression? Oh, well, you don't look gay. See, what you need to do is get married so people don't assume. That's a microaggression.
Yeah.
And in our culture and society, how many times a day do we experience such things as this? 1,000 cuts. Every day. How many TV commercials, if I were to ask you, how many TV commercials can you name that highlight or focus some version of the LGBTQ community in comparison to the cisgender? What's normalized? That heteronormative, toxic, patriarchal, pseudo-Christian energy dominates. One of the things about me that you will learn in a moment is I am a comic book nerd. I love not just Superman, like Doctor Strange. I mean, come on now. So Disney, however, we're not even going to talk about the controversy with them right now because there's some stuff. But because of some of the things that Disney has done and things that Paramount has done with Star Trek and the introduction of, has anyone seen the new Thor, Love and Thunder? Okay, well, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but they allude to the idea, well, they didn't allude to it, it was direct, that they're LGBTQ representation. And Marvel fans of that heteronormative, toxic patriarchal, pseudo-Christian lost their minds. Twitter almost caught on fire. Why? It's comic books. Why y'all gotta be so woke? When did being who we are become the swear word under the umbrella of you're just so woke? Isn't that a microaggression then? Because someone says, you're just so woke. You get on my nerves. Why can't we go back to the way things were when every closet was full of you? Excuse me? You understand how many years I lived in the closet and wanted to kill myself in the closet? And you want me to go back to it? Never. Someone once said, someone in here, raise your hand if you know who said it. If taking a bullet, and I'm paraphrasing, if taking a bullet to my brain destroys every closet door, then let the bullet come. Who said it? Harvey Milk. I am willing, if it will destroy the closets so that no one ever needs suffer conversion therapy, to suffer the micro or macroaggressions, to sit in a room and want to die, to sit in a room and die, then I am willing to surrender, sacrifice my life if it means that will change. How does someone get to this level of, I am willing to surrender, sacrifice? I am willing to step so far out of the box. There's a story that I remember hearing years ago where someone in Walt Disney's family asked him, it was when the catchphrase, think outside the box, became a thing. And they asked one of the nephews or somebody, well, what would Uncle Walt say about this new thing, think outside the box? And without missing a heartbeat, the person said, Uncle Walt would say, box, what box? This community, the LGBTQ community, has always operated outside of the box, has never chosen to purposefully. Now, there have been times, code switching, where it was, I need to do this to stay alive. I need to do this. And yet, there has always been a way of gathering together where I am seen, heard, recognized, and celebrated. You want to put me in a psychological book that labels who I am as a LGBTQ person, as a mental illness and defect. Yeah, do what you need to do for your psychological whatever. But this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to show up. This is how I'm going to live. You can call me what you want to call me, but I am going to step into my power and live my life. Now, the thing is, it can be very challenging to live in the world in which we live right now. You turn on the television on any given day. How many states right now, governors, representatives, wanting to or signing legislation that is anti-us? Right? And it's happening. How many churches, mosques, synagogues, right now are doing exactly what Dr. Kumar said when referenced this idea of, so I'm talking to and meeting with these various pastors and pastoral staff so that they learn how to not hurt us as much as they have been. So right now, without that wisdom and that guidance, how many right now are prepping a sermon for this Sunday, prepping a message for this Sunday, doing a newsletter right now in preparation where they are saying something about us? So it's easy to be overwhelmed. Now you take all of that and you add on, well, my family, my community, I'm all alone. And that's exactly why we're here talking about this. Because I am convinced, and one of the things that Steve mentioned in referencing me, so I'm going to share a little bit of my story in a second. But first I want us to recognize that there was a time when the Nazis spread, and Pastor Martin said, first they came for and I wasn't, so I didn't care much. And then they came for, and I wasn't that either. And then they came for, and I wasn't. And then they came for me, and there was no one left. Now, one of the other things that I love about this community is, because we know, recognize, and understand that at a cellular level, we've always enveloped, protected, and supported others. Because we understand, we're in this together. There's only one village. There's only one human family. And if I stand back, so where does it say this? Am I my brother's keeper? Where is that? Where is that? Right. So one of the things that whenever I reference that, I always say, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Am I my gender non-conforming, gender-rich siblings' keeper? No, I am them and they are me. Because we're in this together. There is no us and them. And even sometimes, because of our own traumas, we forget and we make it about the L. What's the L? No, it's the B. No, it's the... And so we forget. But it takes all of the letters, S-U-P-E-R-C-A-L-I-F-R-A-G-I-L-I-S-T-I-C. It takes all of them to spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It takes all of them. And it takes all of the colors of... Have you ever seen just a red rainbow? No. It takes all of that. Every chakra has to be lit, to be aligned. And so we understand this at a deep level. And within that, there's this idea, now it was originally attributed to Gandhi, but first they ignore you. How many of us have felt ignored by family, by church, by pastors, by somebody? Then they laugh at you. How many of us have been laughed at? Oh, the drag queens and blah, blah, blah. And they laugh, oh, you girly, you this, you that, laughed at. Then they fight you. How many have been traumatized and beaten, literally or figuratively? And then you win. Now, why does that happen? And many of us would say, but Reverend Ray, have we won? Well, the first place we win is within your own heart and in your own mind. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, which is within. right? You go within prayer and meditation. You connect to the Most High, to the divine, by being connected right here. I don't say, Dr. Kumar, hold on a second. I'm gonna run down the Wawa because I'm gonna go look for God and pray down, over at Panera, because God is over there. One of the things we say in Centers for Spiritual Living, there's not a spot where God is not. Didn't someone, tell me the person's name, didn't someone say, so God was even in hell when I went there? There is nowhere that God is not. And so the moment we anchor and ground and recognize, no matter what's going on, do you have power? Do you recognize and acknowledge that you as a living, breathing, divine, magnificent, beautiful, talented being have power? See, one of the great things about that bingo thing that, was, I didn't plan that, ain't had to do it, but I'm working it in. The great thing about it is, what you are doing is signing off on some of the amazing things you have done, are doing, and bringing into the world. One of the signatures on there, I don't remember what number it said. I've been to 4 countries. Somebody, I'm not going to say any names, somebody said that they've been to like 60. I'm not going to say any names. Just saying that you still need that square sign. Some folks, when I lived in Washington, D.C., there were people in D.C. a few blocks away from the Washington Monument, the Capitol, the White House, and a couple other Smithsonian, and they have never been. There are many of us who, for various reasons, don't want to step out and show up in our own lives. And yet, you are a powerful being. And if we really sit with this and say, can we identify someone from the LGBTQ community whose voice, whose power still resonates today? James Baldwin. Someone whose voice still resonates today? Audre Lorde. Someone whose Harvey Milk. Someone whose voice still resonates today. Give me another. Someone whose voice still resonates today. Martin Luther King Jr.
Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou. Give me one more.
Kramer, but I can't remember his first name.
Anybody?
Larry Kramer.
Thank you. Larry Kramer. Act up. Fight. Right? Do we recognize that the fact that you can see that in them? Growing up, we used to say, if you spot it, you got it. If you can see greatness in another, the only reason you can is because it's in you. How many people, other than someone, I'm going to say the name, how many people speak Japanese? Anybody speak Japanese? Okay, so I'm going to say this word. Tengu. Don't Google it and look it up. Tengu. And if I were to say, I'm going to give the first person who finds me a tengu that's about this big, I will give you $1 million. But you can't Google it, you can't do that. What do? Right? You can't find what you don't know what it is. But the moment you know what it is, I know what greatness is. I know what power is. I know what authenticity is. I know what, because you have somewhere within you this energetic that resonates with it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to identify it elsewhere. When I say, hola, what does it mean? How do you know that? Because somewhere in you, you have that within you. Konnichiwa, bonjour, guten tag. Somewhere, in order to know that, you have to already have it in you. Otherwise, you're just, chakra, namaste, it's a word. We say that in yoga, but do you know what it means? That which is the divine, that is showing up in, through, and as me, sees itself in you and marvels at its grandeur and beauty so powerfully that it must bow to itself. That's you. That we have the ability to shift and change the very consciousness of not just this country, the planet. So first thing I'm going to say, and it's his fault that he messed up my intro because that was all supposed to come later. So one of the things I want us to agree to is this idea of confidentiality. You know, what happens in Vegas or Orlando stays in Vegas or Orlando, except, so that goes to when we are sharing specific things, like someone said, so is this being recorded and where? Because it might affect how. So just be mindful that if someone shares something, receive it in confidence. If they tell you, oh yeah, you can tell them that. Like Reverend Ray, I have no secrets. You can ask me anything you want to ask. I have certain things that are private. I'm not going to just give you my social security number. It's private. It's not a secret. It took me many years to get to the point where I have no secrets. Because I didn't want Barbara Walters one day to pop up on me and be like, so, Reverend Ray, now that I have you in my chair, is it true that when you were 7, you shoplifted? Yes, it was. I took 4 pieces of bubble gum and a pack of Scooby-Doo Old Maid cards. Yes, now what? You ain't going to use anything against me. No weapon formed against me will prosper, so I have no secrets. Right? So, but if someone shares something, hold it in confidence. But other than that, share everything. Share the wisdom, share the prayers, share the, if somebody who isn't here tonight said, you know, so I can get baptized, share that. Share it with people. Facebook page, share it. Let people know. Because the more people know, then the more people are invited into this opportunity to heal, to transform, and transcend whatever it is that is holding them back. Cool? Cool? Cool. Thank you. So I got family pictures too. So as I said, we're the same page and then all many things. So yes, that's me up in the upper corner. And it's me, my mother, and my brothers, 2 who have died since. My mother died 2 years ago from Alzheimer's dementia. And that's me when I weighed 285, 90 pounds. And I'm going to tell you more about that in a second. There are my 5 sons, my oldest 2, and then my other 3. I have 5 adopted sons. I'll talk about some of that later. My father who died many years ago, and as I said, my mother died 2 years ago. Why do I share this? Because I have a lot of trauma. I have been raped at least 5, 6 times, raped, molested. The word blends so many times in the past. Everybody in my family does drugs, did drugs, made drugs, took pictures of drugs and smoked the pictures of the drugs, or like it's everywhere. So there was a lot of trauma. My brothers, you know, kicking me down the step. Like there's a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse and a lot of trauma. My father had Lou Gehrig's disease, so I, at 8 years old, became the primary caregiver because my mother was busy drinking. When I was 5, both of my parents, who were drunk at the time, decided switchblade, butcher knife, and they were getting ready to kill each other or fight each other, and the 5-year-old me stepped in between them to stop. Right? So there's a lot of that. A lot of it. When my mother died, my brothers, cousins, everyone in my family chose, because they wanted the house, they wanted the money, so they chose to abandon me. So in essence, 98% of my family is non-existent, or I'm non-existent to them. Right? So we all have something, and yet I share that to say that I don't care. Now, when I say I don't care, what I'm saying is it's not my circus, it's not my monkeys. I have a lane to drive in, and I'm driving in my lane. I'm not swerving, I'm not crossing. I have a lane to drive in because I have a specific destination where I am going. And I would venture that that is true for all of us. We have a specific life that we desire to live. We have a specific way that we want to love and be loved. We have something specific that we want to contribute to the world. We have something specific that we want to see in the world before we leave this world. Some legacy that we want to see or be a part of. Like I would venture to say that what year did we recognize that this is for this? Come on, math folks, what year? Anniversary of?
43.
43rd. I would venture to say that we want there to be an 86th, and a 250th, and a 4,000th. One day someone will stand up and say, so I'm the president, and this organization has been around for 4,000 years. Wow. 4,000 annual, wow. right? We all want to be a part of something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be in this room. If nothing else, you'd be sitting in your room alone, watching television or doing whatever. So the fact that you are here, the fact that you flew, the fact that you drove, you walked, you something, the fact that you felt the heat and swapped out 3 different shirts, like the fact that all of, because you feel connected. Now, one of the questions related to that is, do you feel connected to your own self in such a way that you love you, that you have fun with you, that you celebrate you? Right? Like that's a thing. Because see, it's one thing to love, appreciate, and celebrate others. Right? Carol, happy birthday to you. Like it's easy to celebrate another and give gifts and cake and all that stuff and yay! Do you do that for yourself? Do you celebrate and honor yourself? When Dr. Kumar mentioned this idea of, oh man, this is my son. Wow. I am so very well pleased with. Wow. Do you do that for yourself? When you look into the mirror every morning, fresh out the shower, before your friend texts you and say, I was just thinking about you now. You step, and you are standing in front of the mirror. What do you say to yourself? And I mean, be very honest, because we can't heal, we can't shift, we can't transcend or transmute whatever that is if we're not honest with it being there. And I'm saying, recognize what the judgment is. And then how do we heal it? Because one of the things that I work with my therapist is, Ray, can you change it? No, I can't. My family, they refuse to speak to me. You can't change it because you can't force them to call you. You can't force them to love you. You can't force them. No, I can't. What is within your control? To love myself nonetheless. To appreciate myself nonetheless. To respect myself nonetheless, regardless. And for me, over the last 2 years since my mother died, that word, that phrase, that thing has been my #1 prime directive. Are there any Trekkies in the room? No? That's your assignment between now and next year. I need some Trekkies. But there's this idea of the prime directive. And the prime directive, whether it's Kirk, whether it's Cisco, whether it's Janeway, like it doesn't matter who the captain of the ship is, the prime directive is how we operate within the Federation. We will not damage, touch, influence. It's not our business. We are to boldly go where no one has gone before, to seek out and celebrate new life forms and new civilizations. That's what that prime directive. That has become my prime directive. And tonight and tomorrow, my invitation is for you to adopt it as yours as well. But why? What is self-care? Anybody want to volunteer in your own words? What is self-care? What does it mean?
Wholeness.
Wholeness.
Breathing.
Breathing.
A routine for wellness.
Routine to wellness. Routine for wellness, to wellness. One more.
Balance.
Balance. Cool. If I were to ask, and I'm not yet, but I might. There might be a quiz at the end of this, so be ready. But for now, there isn't, but there might be. Do you have those in your life? Do you have that routine? Balance. Breathing. Do you have these things as part of your everyday life? Now, breathing. Raise your hand if you're currently breathing. I would venture to say we all are, right? Now, one of the interesting things is, breathing is always happening, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. Right? Right now, left butt cheek. We all have one, but you weren't thinking about it until I called it out. Isn't it interesting that the same thing happens with God? That until something calls, oh, relationship, I just lost my job. Oh, now you want to pray. Now you're stressed and now you want to breathe. Versus making it part of your, oh, now I'm out of balance because there's so much going on that, now I'm focusing on balance. Well, what happens when it becomes part of your everyday? You bathe, you brush, well, some of us brush hair, you do stuff. It's part of your regular, we eat, we eliminate down the hall into your, right? We do these things, and we don't think about them in the way that self-care, but it's part of our routines. But what happens when you say, the reason I brush my hair, the reason I brush my teeth, the reason I eliminate, the reason I eat what I eat, the reason I do all this is because I love myself. Not because I want somebody else to think I'm cute. Not because I want somebody else to, not because of them, not because of them, not because of them, not because of them, not because of you, but because I love myself so much that I take care of me. Isn't it interesting that there are a great number of, and I generally see men do this more than women, but there are a lot of men who take better care of their cars than their families, their lives, etc. Or whatever, right? They take better care of the car because they love the car more than they love themselves. They take better care of the car than their kids, better care of the car than their spouse, better care of the car than their finances. Because they pour money into the car, but not the roof. Why? We are conditioned to put other people first. We are conditioned to receive the negative commentaries of. How many of us can be given 100 compliments and then one derogatory something, and all of our attention and focus goes to that one thing? Why? Because we are conditioned to do that. We are conditioned to focus on that rather than. But when we move into this space of unapologetic self-care and radical, audacious self-care, then we don't care what someone says. Someone says, Floyd, I don't like your shirt. And Floyd says, it's not yours, is it? Right? Like, first of all, I didn't ask you if you like it. And if I did, I was just in conversation. Like, I really don't care because it's mine and I like it. That's why I buy it, because I look good in it, don't I? Right. You want me to tell you what you look like in your shirt? I didn't think so. Right? When we get to a space of, you know the mythos of the vampire? Like Count Dracula and vampires? There's part of the mythos, part of the legend is, the vampire cannot come in to your house unless you invite them in. They can stay out there, shh, let me in. Nope. Let me in. Nope. Let me in. No. Please? Tupperware? No. Right? But we let folks in all the time with their nonsense, their criticisms, their judgments, their everything that to dim our light. People show up. I have a basket to place over top of your light because that's shining a little too brightly. I need you to turn that down. You're thinking too highly of yourself. You know, I speak multiple languages. Oh, don't tell anyone that. People are going to think you're arrogant. How do you know that I'm arrogant? It's a fact. Now turn that down. Dimmer switch. Turn it down. Be bow. Be lowly. Be humble. And we use that word humble and humility as an insult, as a command to not shine. To take your light from that hill and bring it way down here. Actually, I'm going to just put it here so you don't even notice it. Because I don't want you to see the light. Because you may think I'm different. You may think you put me on a pedestal. You may whatever. So we run from it. We hide from it instead of standing in it, instead of embracing it. But what role does self-worth, self-esteem, self-love, like what role do those play in self-care? Right? Like if you're going to take care of something, whatever it is. Anybody have a pet? You take care of your pet because you value, there is worth, and you love the pet. That's why you take care of it. If you have a family heirloom, something that great somebody handed down, and now the mask is mine. You remember the COVID years, 100 years ago? Well, I still have great-granddad's mask. Like whatever, something, and we put it in boxes and trophy cases, and we polish it and dust it. Why? Because we value it. Do we value our own selves? Do we value our bodies to take care of them? Do we value our minds to take care of them? Do we value our hearts to take care of them? Do we value our relationships? Are we excellent stewards of our friendships? Stewards of our emotional intelligence? Stewards of our mental health and well-being? Because I can balance a checkbook, but do I do that with love? Do I do that with my mental health? Or am I bankrupt? Or close to bankrupt when it comes to those things? So this guy, founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, Ernest Holmes, said, "For the only God you and I will ever know is the one that we embody." Never forget that. The main point of that quote is to recognize there is this idea of having an intimate, close relationship with the divine. In the Quran, God is closer than our very neck vein, closer than hands and feet. Once again, it's everywhere. God is everywhere. The divine power and presence of love and joy, it's everywhere. Beauty, it's everywhere. Do you embody that? When Yeshua says, "So I did these miracles and so can you, and even greater," do you embody that? "Be ye therefore perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect." Do you embody that? Do you embody that? Or do you let the shame, the blame, and the guilt
When you're busy dealing with Bruce,
run the machine? You have a choice, right? We can either go with the programming. For example, you ever heard of people who do birthing in pools? Not where the baptisms are, though. Birthing in pools or tubs of water, right? So when the baby is born, is the baby wet?
Yes.
Sounds like, right, yeah, of course. The baby is born into this substance. In the same way, there's this parable or analogy made of someone asks the fish one day, "So, how's the water?" And the fish says, "Water. What is water?" You're so immersed in this that we don't even recognize it. I've had conversations with people who are very racist, and I mean very racist, very sexist and homophobic and transphobic and all of xenophobic and just all of that. And in the conversation, they don't even realize that it's what they are. Because in their mind, it's something else. Water is something else. Racist is something else. Until in the conversation, oh, it's what I was born into. The gentleman, Steve Irwin, had 2 children, right? You know what those 2 children are doing right now? Like, not literally like right now, but what are his 2 children doing? Same thing he did. He was Dr. Dolittle. And he raised, and his wife, they raised to Dr. Doolittle's. They were raised around snakes and alligators and stuff, and so it's part of their lives. We are all raised within a consciousness of, and so we are invited to say, am I going to continue to go along with the political structure that says you don't deserve to get married because you're not really married anyway. You don't deserve to have your name changed because that's not the gender you were born, etc., etc., etc. Or do we recognize and say, time out, time out. For I hold this truth to be evident, that I am made in the image and likeness of that which is God. I am the beloved child of God. I am that. And so I will not pursue happiness. Happiness is my divine birthright. And I will claim it. Equity and justice, my divine birthright. And I will claim it. You will not deny me what is mine, no matter what. Are we willing to step into that? Are we willing to accept that for ourselves? Are we willing to love ourselves so much? There's a song that is often sung in Centers for Spiritual Living, and it says, I love myself so much so that I can love you so much, so that you can love you so much. And then you can start loving me. It's about being contagious and in community. It's about giving from the overflow. My cup runneth over to such a degree that I drink from my saucer, because I'm never depleted, never running on fumes, I'm never pouring from an empty cup. My cup runneth over, and it is from the overflow that I give. It is from the overflow that everyone is taken care of, etc., because I take care of me. Because I love myself that much. We've all been on a plane or know the thing about a plane, and if the pressure should happen to drop, this will fall. If you're with someone that you care about and love, put this on them first. Put this on your face first. Because if you can't breathe, honey, I have to be able to breathe first before I can put it on you, and then are we doing that in our regular, everyday lives? Are we tending to our needs? Are we tending to our wants? As Dr. Kumar said, so talk to your dad and tell him what you want. Tell him what you want. How many of us know what we want, though? Are we able to communicate to ourselves? Whenever I'm coaching folks or counseling folks or talking to folks, so I have several C's, but the top three that I use all the time, whether it's interpreting in sign language or ministry or whatever, communicate, cooperate, and collaborate. And anytime I'm talking to folks, and we'll use money as an example, and someone will say something about, but I want more money or I need more money, I will reach into my pocket, pull out a quarter, and give it to them. You have more. And they look at me like, are you serious? Well, you said more. You didn't specify how much more. How much more? Well, I get that to more than a quarter. Here's $1. That's a lot more than a quarter. Ray, you're just being difficult. No, I'm not. You're being vague, and I'm meeting you at the mental equivalent of your vagueness. Tell me specifically, I can't guarantee I'm going to write a check for it, but tell me specifically how much money you desire or want to start this LLC or whatever, to go to Japan or China or to do whatever it is to India, to do whatever it is you want to do. What number? Well, I never really thought about it. So you're telling me that you've gone to the architect, the contractor, and said, so I would like to build a house. And the contractor says, cool, describe it. Well, house. What's getting built? How many bedrooms? I don't know, just 2, 3, 4, I don't know. I need to know specifics in order to. Okay, 3. How many baths? Oh, that's too many questions. Right? The clearer our vision, When the people have no vision, they perish. Do you have a vision for your life? Do you know what it is that you desire in your life with clarity? If I were to ask in these areas, in your finances, do you know with great clarity what you desire to experience? In your relationships, whether that be romantic, friendship, acquaintance, business relationships, doesn't matter. However it is you relate to people. Even if you relate to, because you relate to strangers, that's a relationship as well, right? You go into a supermarket and the person at the checkout line, you are in relationship. You say their name, you may not say their name, there's eye contact unless you're just beep, 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 beep. Thank you. Or you may not even say thank you. But there's still some kind of interaction, even if there's no eye contact, etc. But is that what you want? Is that what you would want if you were on the other side? To not be seen? Or would you want to at least, I mean, I have a running your milk across the, I'm going to change the price and make it a $75 gallon of milk because you ain't paying attention. Right? We want to be present. So relationships, all of them, your spiritual life, and all of the things that are part of your spiritual practices, prayer, contemplation, reading the Bible, memorizing verses, having conversation, seeing a pastor, seeing a therapist and a counselor, all of those things, your mental health and your physical health and well-being. Do you know what you desire? Better yet, do you know what you deserve? Do you know what you deserve when it comes to relationships? Do you deserve to be treated well? Or do you feel like you don't, which is why because I would venture to say, and I don't want to speak for your mom, but because I'm speaking from my experience, the traumatized, there's a point of our lives where we feel like, well, I deserve it, I guess. I mean, they are my parents. They're supposed to love me, and if this is what they're giving me, then I must deserve it. I guess I was a bad child. I guess somehow I didn't live up to some expectation that isn't even a real expectation in their own minds, because they're treating me based upon the lineage of, so in the same way that we handed down great-grandma's mask, we are handing down trauma and triggering and abuse. It's what I got from my father and what he got from his and his and his. It's what my mom and her mom, and it's what generations of. So here we come, and do we feel like we deserve to be disrespected? We're in a culture and society where how many churches are preaching? Many, many years ago when I lived in D.C., there's a church, name is escaping me right now, that I used to interpret. I used to be one of the substitute interpreters for the deaf community there. And this one particular Sunday, I was interpreting in another church somewhere else, so I wasn't at this one. But after service, some deaf folks reached out to me and said, Ray, guess what happened in service today? And I'm going to quote. The pastor stood up and said, so I want all of the men of God to come down to the altar so that I can bless you for the great work that you are going to do. But all of the faggots and sissies, stay in your seats. We don't need you. And my question was, how many people walked out? None. Not the straight folks, not the gay folks. Nobody left. And there's a variety of reasons why, if I'm like, what did he just say? I'm leaving. Then there's all of the stuff that comes with, Ray, where are you going? Well, did you not hear what he just said? And then there's a variety of reasons. But did those same people come back the next week? Now, did those same people tithe that Sunday? Because the interesting thing is, one of the deacons, who's gay, was there that Sunday. And I asked about tithes. And he said tithes that day were at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Have we become so broken that when someone wants to break us even more, we're like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. I mean, I'm sure turn the other cheek does not mean, oh, wow. Oh. But I forgive you. Go ahead. Oh, I think I lost some teeth on that one. Oh, you got more? Wow, okay, come on. Right? But we take abuses over and over and over again. So the question is, because we're going to watch movies, we're going to see television, we're going to be out in culture and whatnot, we're going to see the billboards that say, and we're going to hear people, we're going to be, until such time as we shift the consciousness of, it's going to be present. In the same way that many, many years ago, one of the #1 medical cures for folks was leeches or bleeding people. Until such time as the medical profession said, you know, I don't think this, they have a cold, and I don't think drawing their blood is what's going to, I think we might want to rethink this. Right? And then the medical profession shifted and changed to a certain degree. It still has growing to do. But the idea is, what do you do when you are inundated with? What is your way of, oh, no. Like we used to say when I was a child, I'm rubber, you're glue. Everything you say bounces back off of me and sticks on you. I don't have capacity in my life to take on. I'm not Atlas. Like that's not, and I'm not Sisyphus rolling us up the hill just to watch it. Okay, this is just, what is this? What is this? Can I carve it into a cube or something? Like what? Roll it. That is not why we're here. So what is your method of surrendering, releasing, healing? Giving yourself the capacity and the space to take care of you. Because you deserve it. Not just because you want it, but you deserve it. As I said at the beginning, for me, my mother was the primary abuser in the household. My mother would get so drunk that she would, such violence. Like, I've been hit with extension cords, a lamp, broom handle, I don't know how many brushes she broke, cracking me across the shoulder, banister post, like there's the steps and the she-hulk or something. I'm like, what in the... Like, I almost paused in the middle of a meeting like, oh, you're so strong. Like, I was shocked. But, part of my mind went there. But like, ow, I'm sorry. So for me, it was my mom. But there came a time where I had enough. I felt like Sophia in the club. You told Harpo to beat me. I'll kill him dead. Like, I got to the part where it was like, ooh, I've had it. Because I caught myself. Not only was I praying to God to kill me in my sleep, because I've had it. I hate these people, they hate me, why am I here? But then I caught myself praying, can you just let her, look, it's bad enough that Dad has Lou Gehrig's disease, and he's supposed to, he's already lived past the first 2 years that they said he was going to die, but he going to die. Please take her first. I'm praying, like, woo, that level of venom welling up in me. And one of the things I always tell people about forgiveness is, don't focus on, people fight me on forgiveness. Don't focus on forgiveness being about the other person. Because if you get bit by a venomous snake, and you make it about the snake, where's the venom? You've already been bit. Right? You can, you can Michael Flatley all you want and do the Irish jig on that thing, and the snake is dead, crushed, and gone. You can fire, and it's gone. But where's the venom? You've already been bitten. Forgiveness is about getting the poison out of you. So I had all this venom, poison welling up in me about, so I had enough. So my mother and I, we locked horns. I don't remember how old I was. Mid-20s, late 20s. We locked horns. didn't speak for months. We would pass, just no, nothing. And I told my father, I was like, I'll move if I need to move. I'm not doing this anymore. And then one day, I go up to my bedroom and there's a card sitting on the pillow, and I open the card and it was her apologizing. And roughly it said, there comes a time in an adult's life, in a parent's life, where the parent forgets what it was like when they were a child. And so the parents, from this idea of rather than empathy, compassion, and love, forgive me. And from that point forward, our relationship changed. Now, very similarly, she wasn't able to give me what I wanted or what I really deserved. She was able to give me what she was able to give me. And it was acceptable. To such a degree that 2 years ago when she dies, and my brothers, and I'm like, well, I'm done. I came in, I was a power of attorney, I did what she wanted. She didn't want to be buried, she wanted to be cremated, I cremated. She said, funeral, if you want there to be a funeral, because if these can't see me when I'm alive, they sure don't get to cry over my dead body in a box. So it's up to you. But you can't just put it on paper because you know what they're going to do. And she said, you're strong enough. I know you. You can handle anything and everything they throw at you. And they did. But I showed up, cremated her, had a memorial service and all of that. Left the house to my brothers because I'm like, there's no will. I don't care. I'm done. I'm not coming back to Pittsburgh unless it's to do something in the deaf community. I'm done with you all because you all have turned your back on me. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Come to find out later that there was a will. And she wrote the will right after that blow-up that we had. During those months and weeks of not communicating, she had a will drawn up. And only 2 of her children were mentioned, my brother Leslie and me. My brother Leslie died, which meant the house became mine. So this woman that I thought hated me was already thinking in her own way, how do I take care of my son? How do I provide for him? And so where I am now, once again, this idea of, do I do that for me? Do I love me enough to take care of me? Do you love you enough to truly take care of you, to tend to your needs, your wants, and your desires? And when guilt and shame show up, you have something to combat them. You have prayer. You have meditation. You have counseling and therapy. You have a friend who will listen. You have a chaplain who will listen. You have how did you phrase it? This idea of confessing, this idea of, because we hold a lot of stuff in, because we don't feel safe, we hold stuff in. But simply this idea of, let me lay it down on the altar. It's not mine. I don't want it. And leave it be. So we're almost out of time, and we're going to continue more tomorrow, but are there any comments, questions, or concerns before we close for the evening? Anything. Doesn't have to even be about self-care. You could ask me about anything. My Superman socks out here. I know you're sleepy. I know you're tired. It's been a long, hot day. But I want to make sure you have the opportunity that, and if not now, I'll be here for the next couple of days. Avail yourself that if you have questions, if you want to chat or whatnot, I also am here. So take advantage of it. And if something shows up later, like it's now next Wednesday, feel free to email me.
Dr. Reginald did.
I don't even remember how he found me, but just feel free to reach out on Facebook or wherever to find me if you ever have questions or want to chat about something or know more about something that I shared. But is there anything? Comments, questions, concerns? Going once. Going twice. Sold. Thank you all very much. Appreciate
we were
you.
getting
Love
a
you.
test.
And I will see you soon.
I thought we were getting a test.
Oh, you still want the test?
No, he wants the test.
Get ready. Tomorrow, be ready. Over there, where they serve breakfast, 4:30, be ready. Pen and paper, 8 a.m., pen and paper in hand.
I already got an answer.
Sweats. So be ready.
I already got the answer.